Good afternoon. I get asked this question quite a bit. What do I carry on my hikes? How much am I holding? How much are my goats holding? And I'm going to go over that with you with the basic weight. And I would like to apologize. There's a lot of jet traffic today, so there is some background noise. Hopefully, it doesn't interfere with the audio too much. So I like to run a Gregory backpack, a 45 liter. My weight, my basic weight is usually 20 pounds. This pack right here is just a few ounces shy of 20 pounds, but that's my average weight that I run in my pack. There's some things that I don't allow the goats to carry. That is my emergency, anything that's an emergency situation, like my first aid kit, toiletry kit, bear spray, they do not carry, nor do they carry anything that's electronic. Because anything that's electronic could get damaged, because goats do communicate by bashing each other, and they like to hit in the midsection, and the midsection is where your panniers are and your gear is, so you don't want to have anything that's damaged that you need in the field and can be quite expensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down my backpack and do a complete gear review of what I personally carry at all times on hikes, and then I will break down the panniers of the goats that I use. Good rule of thumb that we follow with my family on our packing adventures is one goat per person to carry our sleeping gear, clothes, things and food, and then we also always have one extra goat that is carrying our camp gear, like the tent, anything that's a camp kitchen, chairs, those things there that is utilized inside the campsite. And sometimes on the longer trips we'll bring a goat that's slick with just empty panniers, and we will rotate the load between the goats so nobody gets overexhausted or tired or whatnot. Goats are just like humans. You have days where you're phenomenal, and then you have a day where you're just not doing well for no rhyme or reason. We've all had those moments, especially if you've been in sports, you know what I'm talking about. Goats are the same way. So on the bigger adventures, I like to have a slick goat for those reasons alone. So we're doing a little bit of a gear review on what I carry in my backpack, and this is because it best suits the purposes that I have. Each individual should tailor their backpack to their own personal needs and what they're doing in the field. Our emergency kits vary from person to person. If you have an emergency kit, my recommendation is you know what's in it and you know how to use it. It's pointless to have an emergency kit if you don't even know what the contents are. So when REI, Costco, Cabela's, any other major outdoor source, when they're selling these things, I like to look for when they have sales, and I'll buy 2 kits. That way I can open one kit and familiarize myself with the kit, so when the emergency happens, I'm not panicking trying to read labels and look for things. Those critical seconds could be the difference between life and death, or the loss of a limb to your loved one or a friend that's with you on the trail. So please, emergency kit, this is one of the most important things you can have in any outdoor scenario. Any outdoor scenario. I can't stress that enough. In every trip that I do, I bring a rain jacket. I am in Western Washington and we do get some rain, not like Hollywood makes it, but we do get a lot of moisture. And it's not so much the rain, it's the vegetation that retains the moisture, and then as you're walking through it, you're just getting soaked, you get miserable, you can become hypothermic, especially when night falls here. So I always have a rain jacket, and not only does it work against moisture, but also if it starts to get a little windy, you start feeling a little cold, throw the rain jacket on. I always have hiking sticks, even on trails that I won't need them. I use them because they're a huge deterrent to any dog that is going to rush my goats. Domestic dogs, they don't understand what a goat is, let alone one with a backpack in most cases, and they want to do what a dog needs to do and defend the family. So a lot of times just waving a trekking pole in front of a dog has stopped them. We have yet, knock on wood, to have any dog bites. We've had a few close calls, but loud voices and trekking poles have kept them at bay. Coffee cup, because I don't want to go to prison. So I drink coffee, I bring a coffee cup. And then I have a little microfiber towel that I use here for when I'm washing my hands, drying my face. If I touch something nasty, you know, This is a lifesaver. That way you're not touching your eyes or your mouth with something that you shouldn't be. And then I'll carry a couple packs of wet ones to wash my hands in those type of situations. So these always go hand in hand together in the same pocket. I carry a solar panel to charge my electronics and my battery bank. And I carry a battery bank like this, and if I've been using it a lot at nighttime, especially if I'm blow drying my boots, I will attach this to the back of my backpack. So as I'm hiking, I'm getting a charge to my battery pack. Peaks headlight. This is probably one of the best ones on the market, if not the best one. 4 hours of continuous light at the highest setting. This thing is a lifesaver. A lot of the headlamps out there are designed for camp usage for a few minutes at a time, but if you've ever found yourself in the dark walking miles back to the trailhead, you end up using your cell phone for minimal light. And when you're in cougar and bear country, you want to see a little farther than 3 or 4 feet, right? Peaks headlamp, I can't stress these enough. They're worth every dollar that they cost. A lot of times you can get them on sale too. So that's what we did. They were running a sale. It was like free shipping. We bought a couple. Wife and kids, they love them immensely. I always carry a little teeny knife. I never know when I'm going to have to cut some paracord or anything else, or a shoelace. You never know. So I just carry a little teeny packing knife. I think it's 3 ounces, if that. For those of you like me that have eczema, a little travel lotion. And then of course, you always want insect repellent. Up in the high country, the bugs are brutal. You will have a miserable time if they're out and about. I always carry 2 full water jugs. Regardless if there's water there or not, I always carry 2 full water jugs. Years ago, I had a water pump that broke on me, and it made for a long 10-hour hike back with no access to fresh water. I will never do that again. It was miserable. It was damn right dangerous. So I always carry 2 water bottles. My plastic Nalgene, I don't like the flavor of the plastic, so I usually put electrolytes in there from Mountain Ops or one of the other manufacturers. Get like a different flavor, like kiwi, strawberry, banana, peach, you know, something to get that plastic taste out. Plus it's electrolytes that you need when you're on the trail. And then I run one of these double-walled aluminums that I put ice cubes in before I leave, so I've got nice cold water. And with this, I use what's called a SteriPen when I collect water. And always, I carry bear spray. And I carry bear spray on either end of my backpack, or I attach it up high, depending on what application I'm doing or how I'm crawling about on the mountainside. If it's an easy trail, I keep it somewhere on my hip, but if I'm going to be going up and over rocks and logs, it's going to be digging into the sides, right? So I'll throw it up high. But you always want to have this in an easy reach, because when a bear gets down on you, or a cougar or a wolf, whatever, you're probably not going to have much of a warning. So you want something you can just grab. In your backpack, in a pannier, in your buddy's backpack, you know, buried under a pile of stuff is going to do nobody justice. Leave it out, guys. This is my emergency kit, and I love these marsupial gear stretch bags here. This is where I like to keep things in, and I label everything. I know what's in each bag by the size of it. However, if I'm in need of dire assistance, I'm hurt, I'm bleeding, I'm in shock, my family member or maybe a stranger that happens to be in the area looking through my bag, they're going to know exactly what is what, because it's labeled. So I have an emergency kit here that's labeled. We'll go over the contents of what's in here. So I have a first aid kit here that I bought from one of the local outdoor stores. Ended up buying 2 of these, so I familiarized myself with what's in this one. I keep a little outdoor sleeping pad, or an emergency shelter, an emergency blanket. I also keep paracord bracelet here with a compass and an emergency whistle. You might not have enough lung strength to yell for help, but you don't need a lot to get loud with this. I carry emergency matches, a glow stick, If it's nighttime, you can pop this bad boy and wave it back and forth, and you can attract attention from a great distance in the pitch black. I always carry, and this one right here is really important to me, every single pack I have has a spare one of these in it, and that is a head net. There's been times that the bug spray just doesn't do it for those mosquitoes up in the high country, but this right here is a lifesaver. Because I didn't go up to the top of the mountains to be miserable. I went up there to have a good time, and this can be the difference. I keep a couple hot pads here for a hypothermic type of situation. I got a boot one, and I've got one for the hands, but you put them in your armpit, groin, chest if you're having hypothermia, and it'll help out. I always carry a spare lighter, and then an emergency life straw for drinking water. And then I have a flint and steel that I carry in my pack. And this goes with me regardless if I'm doing a day hike, I'm doing an overnight, or I'm doing a 4-day. Regardless of what's going on, this rotates to every single pack I have, including my hunting pack. It's well worth the wait, and it's one of those things, it's like a seat belt, you know, you wear it and hope you never have to actually test the thing out. Another item that I keep in quick access top pouch is my toiletry kits. I call it something else, obviously, but I don't want to get docked by YouTube there. I keep wet ones, washing my hands, some flushable wipes, right? Hand sanitizer, a shovel, because no one wants to see your business, right? And I keep paper towels, some baby powder, and then I have dude wipes as well. And I'd rather have more than I need than run out, right? So this is what I carry for my toiletries, and it hasn't failed me yet. If it did, I would modify it really quick on the next trip, because no one wants to have a shitty experience, right? So that's my toiletry kit. And I love these marsupial bags because they stretch. Look at that. Right into the kit. And I keep it up top right there because you never know. Last item that's in my backpack is my electronics kit. These are some of the things that I have here. I have another battery bank. Now, I only run 2 battery banks if I have the whole family with me. If I'm by myself, then I just do the 1 battery bank. And then I have a FlexTel, which I use to blow up my air mattress, so I'm not sitting there trying to wheeze and blow into something after I've done hiked, you know, how many miles, how many hours, and then I'm at a high altitude, so I'm already sucking on oxygen as it is. So this guy right here, it's got different little attachments, hook it up to your air mattress, and when you're running, like for us, we're running 4 air mattresses at a time. You know, that's a lot of wind power you need. Or you can use this. These right here are something that I learned about on the Gritty podcast, and these are boot dryers. You hook them up to your battery bank, set one of these in top of each boot, and then it pulls in the hot air and dries your boots out. You get about 4 hours of continuous running off of a normal battery bank. It's nice though. You soak your boots, wake up in the morning, you're not dreading putting your feet into something nasty or giving yourself a horrible rash or torn feet, right? Right here, I'd recommend looking at these. Just Google boot dryers. I found these, they're Graxaw. I found them on GoHunt.com. They've got a lot of selection for the outdoors. All right, with that Peaks headlamp that I talked about a little while ago, they have a power cable that can only be used with their product. If you use another power cable, it will ruin that headlamp. So make sure that you have a way of marking that cable for that headlamp if you go that route. And then of course I have my standard USB cable, and then right here I have what is called a SteriPen, and you take this off, turn it on, and then there's a counter, and you just move it around in the water, and it uses a UV light to kill whatever nastiness is in the water. And I went this route because of the incident I talked about earlier where my pump broke on me and left me stranded without water. It was a horrible day. And then I also carry a pyro lighter, which is charged by a USB cable, and then I have pyro putty that you can literally put water on and it won't go out. This is just an emergency situation if I need to light a fire to keep myself warm. And then I keep pills just in case this fails. I got the chlorine tabs to keep my water clean, because you don't want to be drinking any nasty water and getting beaver fever, giardia, or any type of parasite. One of the goats will be carrying total of 14 pounds in the panniers and a few more pounds for the saddle. I think about 5 pounds. So we've got 21 pounds that an adult goat's going to carry on our trip. That is a Northwest saddle. And then these panniers are by Nathan Putnam of Putnam Pack Goats. And I'll go over the contents of these panniers, and then we'll move on to the next one. Particular goat, what he would have been carrying is my sleeping gear, highline kit, some jackets and food. And I'll go over kind of like what this guy is carrying for me. So I like the jet boil. I know there's different styles, but when I go hiking and camping, I spend more time away from the campsite. I view the campsite as just a place to go to sleep. I'm fishing on the lake, or I'm scrambling around the lake or the mountaintop after I've set up camp, and then I just want to explore. If I just want to sit around a campfire, I'll go down to one of those state parks and just drive up to one. I'm not gonna walk all the way up to a mountain just to sit on a log and look at a fire. That's not me. So I prefer a fast food, instant gratification. So the standard jet boil is what I like. I know some guys like the Mimo and the other slow cookers. Not me. I'm all about exploring and seeing things, because you can only do it so much in your life, but you can eat anytime you want, right? So I carry that. I always carry an extra can of fuel. I will put up with the extra weight because these things are incredibly light and it's hard to judge or hear how much fluid's actually in these things. So I always have a backup, a brand new backup, and as soon as I pop the seal on this, I'm bringing another one. I refuse to go hungry. And then on average, I eat one of these packages per meal just because I'm burning so many calories to get from point A to point B. I go to Cabela's pretty much twice a month, and I just look for them sales, or on Facebook or any other website that sells these things. There's always a sale going on, knocking $1, $2, sometimes $3 off. When they do that, grab a couple. That's what we do. So different flavors, try them out, different companies, find what works for you, find what tastes the best, reacts the best to you. You'll understand what I mean. But I figure for a day trip, I'm taking 3 packs. That's what I have, and then I'll have some snacks along the way as well. The goats, I always take a collapsible water bowl. I found that my goats don't like to drink from moving water. They'll drink from lake and pond water without a problem, but or a very slow moving creek. But anytime I'm near a river or the snow is melting and all the creeks are just moving 30-40 miles an hour with that water, the goats don't go near that water. If they do, they treat it like it's acid. So what I do is I dip a big bowl and I walk over, and they'll drink happily from this. And this thing is light. It's meant for dogs, but works just as good for a goat as anything else. And it's light, packable, barely weighs anything. And then if you're from Western Washington or a mountain state, you know exactly what I mean. Even in July and August, it can get cold up there in the high country at nighttime. When that sun goes down, that temperature sometimes dips 30-40 degrees. So I bring goat coats for my goats. However many goats I'm bringing is how many coats I'm bringing. That way they are comfortable. There's no reason that I should be sitting in my tent, nice, fat, and happy, and they're out there shivering all night, right? Burning precious calories, probably not getting a good sleep, and just having a horrible time. No one wants that on a vacation, right? You want to have the time of your life. Goats are no different. So we put on these goat coats. If they're getting cold or if it starts getting wet, they got goat coats. We use a highline system found on packgoats.com. that we tether them with. That way they're right there, they're not going to run anywhere, and they're right next to our tent so we can hear if anything happens in the middle of the night. And in my other pannier, it's not in this one, but my other pannier, I have a tarp system, a Kelty tarp system that I put over my goats to provide an extra layer of protection against wind, rain, and possibly snow. Sleep system that I have here, a little too much. I actually grabbed my wife's liner there. Sorry about that. So I carry a backpack. I don't cinch it down all the way. I'm not solo, so I have the pleasure of keeping it loose, because the more you cinch it down, the less that it will work for you, right? So I have a backpack, and yes, it's rated for, I want to say 40 degrees, which, okay, that's not comfortable. However, I do a liner, and I do a extreme liner in there, so this brings it down to about a 20-degree bag, and I'm comfortable that way. I always have an air mattress, because no one wants to lay on roots and rocks, right? Air mattress. Whoop, grabbed too many pillows there. And then I run a air pillow as well. So this is my sleeping system right here. Weighs maybe 2 pounds. And I always have a goat carry this for me. And then when we're running the whole family, we'll have one goat just specifically everybody's sleeping gear, so we know which goat is what. So when you're breaking camp down, setting up camp in the dark, it's easier than going to multiple different packs looking for multiple different things when one goat could have it all. But this is a typical sleeping system. This goes on all my overnight trips, not any day trips, unless I suspect I might not be able to get back to the trailhead in the middle of, or trailhead in a decent time. You know, then I'll bring this. Early season hikes usually is when I do that, because there's blowdowns, rocks come down. A lot of the trails are unknown until the trail reports start coming in, and nowadays people are a lot more tight-lipped about where they go because the crowds ruin it, right? So this one here is running 20 pounds, 10 in each pannier, and then the saddle I believe is about 7 pounds, so 27 pounds total. This is something I use on one of my stronger goats. They can carry more weight, but when you start hitting high country, elevation gain, going over rocks, tree roots, blowing down trees, you don't want to load the goat to the max capacity, because then they're not going to go the distance you need them to go. So this is the Mark Warnke from PackGoats.com, and these are the Signature Series panniers. I think we have about 7 sets of these. We have them in various colors, and then we have a bunch of blaze orange that we use during hunting season, so no one accidentally thinks that my goats are a deer or a bear. But they do roll down, which is nice to make them compact, and this is the full size of it. So we like to pack a couple of them with our clothes, which can be bulky, and it just worked just fine for that application, and plus anything else we're putting in there. And I'll go over what's in each pannier. Carried in the panniers, I always carry a tarp. If I don't have the goats, this tarp right here, it's real light. It's a 2-person tarp. This will go in my backpack. It weighs less than a pound. The reason I like this is if it starts raining, I can put this up, or if I'm glassing an area while I'm hunting or just enjoying the view and I'm getting pelted with the wind, I can put this up as a wind barrier. Also, if it's really sunny and you're up above the tree line and you don't feel like getting sunburned or beat down by the heat, this thing's a little lifesaver. I've used this a lot. It's worth its weight in gold, and they're inexpensive, really inexpensive. I carry Kelty, or in this particular brand, it's called all-weather tarp. Different brands, but there you can usually find these guys on sale around Father's Day, Christmas time, or right after Christmas. When the hiking season's over, REI is trying to clear out stuff. You can find some good deals on these tents, or these tarps. This is what I use right here for my pack goats. So this will go over the high line that I have where they sleep, so they have an extra layer of shelter. I never leave without this on any overnight trip. The goats will have comfort. I always carry a pair of gaiters unless I know the trail. There's a lot of trails that I go on where there's berries, and if you're from Northwest Washington like we are, you know all about the types of berries we have here that just love to embed into your shins and kneecaps. These guys right here, lifesavers. I keep them in every hike of unknown areas, or if it's early season and there's probably a lot of overgrowth going over the trail system before everybody else beats it down for us, right? So these go on to trips of the unknown, overnights, or anywhere I know I'm going to bushwhack. And then I take coffee. I like to pour over coffees, and then I have the electrolytes here that I mentioned earlier. This keeps me out of prison right here, guys, right here. I have a lightweight stool that I like to bring. Some people like the chairs. I prefer the stool. I used to like the chairs until I had a hernia operation, and since then I don't like sitting down into anything. It feels uncomfortable, so I just do this little lightweight packable stool. Weighs less than a pound. It was a little over $100, but it was worth the money, and it's light. You don't even notice it's there. I'll deal with that later there. And then I like to carry, yes, it's a hiking tent. It's 7 pounds, which is kind of heavy for a lot of the hiking tents, but when I have the goats, I can get away with a little bit more luxury, so I like a tent with a little bit more room. This is a 2-person tent. If it's just my wife and I, this is what we're taking. If we're going with the kids, we either take the 4-person tent or we take 2 of these and split them up among the goats, and the kids have a tent, we have a tent. But it's nice to have these. This right here, this tent right here, believe it or not, was free. We went to a Ragnar event, and a guy did not read the instructions and tried to put it together without the instructions, got frustrated, handed it to us, and walked away. So we got ourselves a $400 tent for free. No complaints. I always carry a little Fiskars foldable saw for cutting firewood, tree branches, whatnot. Sometimes you got to modify where you're camping. So I always carry one of these, or I carry one of those katanas, the Silky Boy katanas. It depends on where I'm going and what I'm expecting, but normally I'll carry this. Fishing gear. I always go fishing. Mountains, I don't just go to the mountains. I go where there's a lake in the mountains. I won't just go to a mountain to go to a mountain. It's got to be a lake involved. And then I always take fishing gear with me. And this is my setup. Everybody's different. If you got your fly fishermen, you've got your bait, the guys that use the bait, you got the guys that use the lures. We can all agree the guys that snag, they suck. Up in the high country, none of those things are, none of those trout are used to bait, so you're going to be stuck with flies or lures. I prefer the rooster tails, but if I do go to a fly, I know sacrilege to the fly fishermen, but I'll put a bubble with about 6 feet of line and cast out and just real slow. I find that white, orange, and red are the best colors for the trout species up here in the high country. And then we have these little packable fishing poles that we take. Each one of us has our own kit. And it's lightweight. And it breaks down into a convenient little case, so it'll fit in pretty much any backpack for either a day hike or an overnight hike. And we all go with these. Every hike that we go, we have this. You like fishing though? Look into it. Look, there's lots of different options for fishing. Probably more than I can count. You know, and this is just an old shower bag. It's converted to hold my fishing lures and my stringer and the hook remover. Works just fine for the application I'm doing. It's waterproof, so I don't get the rest of my gear wet. If the water stays in here and I get home, I just flip it inside out and dry it and clean it as applicable. We're going to talk about clothing, and this is just for a simple overnight. You know, if you're going more days than that, obviously there's going to be an increase in the amount of clothing. I will not do an overnight without a pair of Crocs. Nothing feels better than putting these guys on at the end of a day of walking. You got your socks off, you got your boots or your shoes off, and you're just letting your feet air. You're not walking over pine needles or bugs, rocks, blackberries, salmon berries, whatever. All of us carry a pair of Crocs. These are the perfect camp chute. Say what you want about them. I know some people can't stand them, but who the hell's gonna see you 6,000 feet elevation, right? Everyone in my family rocks a puffy jacket. They are packable. They pack down extremely tight, but the more you pack them down, the less they work. So we just free float them. We have one in each pack, and we also have puffy pants. And not only are these amazing for when you're sitting down somewhere and it gets cold, but at nighttime, if your sleeping bag and your liner aren't doing it for you, if it really dips on you, you put these in like pajamas, which is wearing like pajamas, climb into your sleeping bag, you'll be warm. You'll be hella warm. I always carry a pair of shorts and shirt that I use. This is pretty much my PJs. Whatever I'm wearing going up is what I'm wearing coming down to keep down on the weight there. Always have an extra pair of socks. I will, this is one item that I will change daily. I do not like dirty feet. I keep a pair of boot warmers in there. If I'm really cold at night, I'll put a pair of these right there on my feet. Gloves and a little teeny beanie. And then in my clothing kit, I also have a hygiene kit where I've got some wipes, full body wipes, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste. Whoops. I carry some mouthwash, and then I have these little individual pill containers that I'll have some Excedrin, maybe some aspirin, Pepto-Bismol, like the type of things, over-the-counter stuff that you might need, some antihistamine medicine, something that, you know, you don't want to be on top of the mountain with an allergy attack or diarrhea or, you know, something else going on. So we always carry a few little over-the-counter pills for those type of situations. Hope you don't have to have them, you need them, but they're there. And then I carry a little bit of chapstick because sometimes you do get chapped with the elevation change and exposure to the sun up there. So we do that. And then I did drop something there. Oh yeah, and dental floss. A little thing of dental floss is about as small as I can find. And what I do is when I go to the dentist office, they give you those little kits, you know, after you get your teeth cleaned twice a year. And we just convert the kits into our overnight kits. You know, it's works. It's free, well, free-ish, and works great for the high country. All right, guys, I hope this gave a brief explanation of what I do for myself when I go. Now, if my family's involved, obviously everything else, weight-wise, the amount of goats, the amount of gear is going to go up, but it's basically the same. Just each individual have their own gear, their own clothes, their own sleeping gear, their own hygiene kits, their own backpacks, and figure a person per goat, a goat for the camp, and then we like to run a slick goat to relieve other goats because there's times that you just aren't feeling it. You don't have the drive. We all know. Anybody that's played sports knows exactly what I'm talking about. No rhyme or reason to it. It just happens. Probably more of a mental thing than anything else. But I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. And as always, like and subscribe.